What to do after installing Linux CNC. Prepare to not give up on your configurations.
Hey, freak. Something amazing came up. Get up right now. This is no time to get drunk.
What happened? Angel, you're like the devil, waking me up when I was pleasantly drunk.
Great things have happened.
Oh my god. All my Jim Beam is gone. I have to go buy some immediately.
Not that, but our last video about installing Linux CNC got a bit of buzz. Furthermore, I got a comment from someone like Master Yoda on the Linux CNC forum, who also posted a link to the video on the Linux CNC forum.
Really? I just had no choice but to post a video of the Linux CNC installation last month, because I was so busy due to how smooth that I didn't get much done on a 5-axis machine project. I'm not sure what it was that got people's attention. Do you know why?
Are you stupid? Can't you even understand that?
Tell me, why?
Because on this channel where 99% of the viewers are men, the most beautiful angel in heaven, who can't possibly be human, was assisting in the video, of course it would get more views.
Oh yeah, I think there's a non-zero chance of that happening, but I think there's another reason.
There is no such thing as another possibility, but just say it.
Maybe there are quite a lot of people who are interested in Linux CNC, but most of the information is too specialized for the normal person to understand. However, I think the last video was easy to understand because it was in a conversational style with a dumb assistant like you asking questions from a beginner's point of view.
So in short, it's because of me, Light.
Maybe you are. So in this video, I will introduce the softwares that will be the next important thing to do after setting up Linux CNC.
What is the important software? The software to run the machine is Linux CNC, right? You can't just connect some wires and push a button to make it work, can you?
That's a very crude way of thinking. It's not that simple. Linux CNC is not a machine-specific software. It is for controlling any CNC. So if you want to build your own 5-axis CNC machine, you need to set it up for that purpose.
I see what you mean. So it's like setting up a printer, selecting the model and network settings on the setup page.
There are ways to set it up like Angel says. Linux CNC CPN Conf Wizard or Linux CNC Step Conf Wizard. You can easily set this up to suit your machine. However, this does not support 5-axis and the options are limited. When something goes wrong, this method alone will not be sufficient. When you want to add some new functionality, you can't do anything. For example, when you want to be able to use a jog wheel, you can't do anything. So, as a result, you have to edit the Linux CNC folder directly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the picture. It's not that easy, but I have a bad feeling about editing files directly. I'm pretty sure I'll never understand it.
Don't give up before you even get started. Anyway, let's try it. First, we need to create a configuration file to run the machine. We can use Wizard as I explained earlier, but I have already decided to use XYZTRD to run the 5-axis machine. So it is very easy. Just choose it.
I think I can do this myself. Super easy.
It's easy, right? Here is where you can find the configuration you just created. If you open this file, it looks like this.
Oh wait, there's lots of some things. These are the ones with cursors on them that I will never understand. If I open these files, I'm going to get in trouble. They're definitely dangerous.
Calm down, Angel. These are not curse or anything like that. They're the magic to create the perfect machine. There are a lot of files, but at first you only need to focus on 2. The first is the INI file. This is the file that has the extension INI and the name of the configuration you chose earlier. The second is the HAL file listed in that INI. Those are the only ones you need to concentrate on first.
If it's just 2 files, I can forgive you. By the way, what does INI stand for? Maybe invisible nerd instructions or something.
No, it's not. INI stands for initialization. An INI file is a type of configuration file and is used to initially configure software and operating systems. HAL is set up in an INI file to mediate between the software and the hardware. Let's open a file to try it out.
I knew this was a bad one. It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm giving up. I'm going home today because I'm going to get drunk at the bar.
Wait a minute, listen to me. Surely, there is no way to understand this just by looking at it. You still need to study this syntax. If you work hard, you will be able to understand it. There are manuals on the Linux CNC website. If you read them in order, you will be able to figure it out. Even a drunk like me could do it. An intelligent and beautiful angel like you can definitely understand it.
Yes, I know. I'm the most intelligent and most beautiful of angels. So I can understand this in 5 minutes.
I don't think you can figure it out in 5 minutes, but you should be able to figure it out. Back to the story. If you have decided to start Linux CNC, Code Editor is important for editing INI and HAL files in the future. The Code Editor is simply a notepad software. This video is about the Code Editor.
What? You've talked to me this long, and now you want to recommend notepad software to me? I've been using such software for a long time. Don't make fun of me.
Now then, Angel, earlier you said you looked at the INI file and couldn't make sense of it, right? That's because you don't know the syntax. These strings have meaning. If I color-coded them based on those syntax rules, you wouldn't find them easy to understand, would you?
Of course, that would be easier to understand, I suppose.
How about like this?
Oh, great. I can easily imagine that there's something meaningful about this color coding. What's this software called? I want it.
The name of this software is called VS Code. VS Code stands for Visual Studio Code, a free source code editor developed by Microsoft. The syntax highlighting I just showed you is a basic feature of such code editors. There are many other code editors like this one. Code editors are text editors specialized for software development and used by programmers and developers. These are examples of common code editors. I don't think Angel noticed, but the software used to open the INI file earlier is also a code editor called INI.
I see. It means that the software is so commonly used that it is already installed when you set up Linux CNC, even though I don't know it.
That's right. But usually, people who want to build their own CNC machine will find Linux CNC as a result of their research to control their CNC machine. They may be able to make Linux CNC run. However, when they actually try to configure the settings for their own machine, they do not know that they have to edit INI or HAL files, and they cannot image what they have to do. Since they don't have a basic image, they can't understand it even if they read the manual of Linux CNC. Of course, there is no way to know how useful the code editors are. They don't know what process to use to edit the code, and they face a lot of errors. Then they give up.
This face is really creepy.
In other words, if you want to use Linux CNC, it is better to have elementary knowledge of programming.
I see. So a machine tool enthusiast with no programming knowledge at all needs at least the minimum necessary knowledge to get started with Linux CNC. But there is no one to disseminate information from this approach.
But there is one person.
Who is that? Who is such an awesome freak? Tell me.
It is me. That's exactly what this video is about.
It's a little too much. I'm starting to feel embarrassed to be an assistant for this channel.
Never mind. You could hear the audience applauding. By the way, I think you are beginning to understand that code editors are important for using Linux CNC. Let me explain a little more about code editors. Code editors support many different programming languages and can be extended with language-specific functionality. In other words, there are extensions specific to Linux CNC. It is easy to set up. VS Code has even more useful features. For example, in my case, I want to remotely control the Linux CNC installed on my Raspberry Pi from my Mac using Namachine software. so I want to access the files from my Mac too. There is an extension function that makes such a setup easy, which I will introduce later. Now let's install it. The first step is to visit the official VS Code website, download and install the appropriate one. The work here is no different from that of other software, so there is no need to explain it in particular. Installation is complete. Raspberry Pi has limited resources and is remotely controlled, so there are issues such as latency. You need to work without stress. First, install Remote SSH, an extension to access the Raspberry Pi 4. Add the extension from this icon. Type Remote here. Select Remote SSH to install. Confirm the IP address of the Raspberry Pi 4. Copy the IP address and back to the VS Code. Open the command palette and choose Connect to Host. Select Add New SSH Host and paste the username at mark, followed by the IP address you just copied. Select this SSH/config. Select Connect to Host again, and the IP address you just set will be displayed. Enter the Raspberry Pi password. It seems to take a while to connect for the first time. Now it is connected. The folder you see now is the Raspberry Pi folder. I think it was relatively easy. Now VS Code is running on my regular Mac, so I can work smoothly regardless of the performance of the Raspberry Pi. Enable syntax highlighting of Linux CNC files. Let's see what the syntax highlighting looks like in its default state. INI files already have functioning syntax highlighting. I will also open the HAL file. When I open the HAL file, nothing is color-coded. This is because the Linux CNC extension is not installed, so install it. Open Extensions and type Language Support for Linux CNC to see the Linux CNC extension and install it. Syntax highlighting now works for HAL files. You can see that it is correctly recognized because Linux CNC HAL is displayed in the lower right corner. Introducing the useful and powerful search and replace feature. This is a common feature in other text editors, but it is very powerful. First of all, you can also distinguish between upper and lower case letters. You can also separate whether the character you are searching for is a single character or part of a word. The search function is excellent, and replacements can be made with ease. You can search not only within a single file, but also within a folder. Clicking on a search result will take you to that file. Of course, search and replace is often used in Linux CNC file editing. A good search function will help you. Introducing the comparison function. When editing a program, errors often occur. When an error occurs, it is often necessary to compare the program with the one that did not have the error to find a problem. At that time, this function highlights only the parts that are different, making it easy to understand. This is very useful. As an example, XYZBC-TRD, INI and XYZSC-TRD, INI files for comparison. These files should be almost identical in content, with the only differences being whether the rotation axis is A-axis or B-axis. First, open the command palette. Select Compare Active File with. Select the program you want to compare. Any differences will be highlighted. Scrolling is also synchronized, so it is very easy to understand. In the past, I used to make backups of my files and often looked for the cause of errors by comparing the before and after changes. Finally, there is a file management function. This is useful when programmers develop software collaboratively. You don't use it in normal life, but Linux CNC is also developed using Git and GitHub. This is such a common sense tool for programmers that those who do work related to metalworking should use a lathe or milling machine when machining metal.
Oh my gosh, as much as I didn't want it to, Git finally appeared. This is the one that I can't figure out even though I've looked it up so many times. Many times I gave up trying to figure it out.
That's right. This is a very reasonable system for those who develop software, but I think it is hard to understand for those who are not interested in software development or anything like that in the first place. I will give the minimum necessary explanation that is easiest to understand in my own way. All software, including Linux CNC, does not run with only programs listed in a single folder. It is the programs in multiple files, each working together. For example, I mentioned a while ago that you need to understand INI and HAL files when you start Linux CNC, and they are closely related. Often when you try to make some changes, you have to change both files to get it to work. So after you save each program, you have to put them together and save them further. This is the git commit operation. Committing saves the current state of the entire project. In addition, Git is a system that allows you to recall previously saved chunks at any time. This allows you to easily revert to a previous state if your changes go awry. What I just described is the basics of Git, but for those who just want to set up a Linux CNC, I think it is enough to know this first. More information than you need will only confuse you.
Hey freak, even I can see how useful Git would be, but when I actually try to use it, I don't really understand it.
I get it. It's easy. I'll show you how it works. The video will be long, so I'm not going to talk about Git setup or anything like that. If you're interested in the setup, see the overview section. Git is usually operated on the command line, but with VS Code, most operations can be done without using the command line. In addition, you can install an extension called Git Graph to help you visually see your branch and commit history. Let's start. After setting up Git, decide which folder you want to version control. Let's look at this on the Raspberry Pi. I will version control this file in the Linux CNC folder. Go back to VS Code, select Explorer, and open the folder just mentioned. Click on Source Control and initialize it. You will see many file names. Once back on the Raspberry Pi, you will see that a hidden folder called Git has been created. This is where your history information is stored, but you don't have to do anything with it, so just keep it in mind as knowledge. If you ever want to stop this version control, just delete this folder and you will be back to normal. Also, the folder with the Git folder is called repository. You will be using the word repository a lot from now on, so please remember it. Go back to VS Code. You see a lot of files and changes, but these are not yet managed. This is because I just created a repository and have not yet registered the files to be managed. First, register all of them. Right-click on Changes and select Stage All Changes. Many files that were there before are now moved to Staged Changes. What is happening here is that we are preparing to save the changes of many files and folders together. This is called staging. Next, enter a message to save all the changes in the staged files together. This is called commit. This completes the first commit. If you make various changes to files in the repository in the future, you can quickly return to the state and install Git Graph to easily check the current state. I have already installed it, so I will just enable it here. Just click on Source Control and you will see the Git Graph icon. Click on it and you can see the current status. Next, let's modify the INI file to try it out. Change the title that appears when starting Linux CNC. Save the file with Command+C when you are done making changes. After saving, you will see them. Go to Source Control, Staging, Comment and Commit. Go to Raspberry Pi and start Linux CNC. The title bar has changed. Let's see what Git looks like. From this information you can see that 2 commits have been recorded. The current state of the file is the commit with the blue circle. If you want to go back to a previous commit, right-click on the commit you want to go back to and click Checkout. Then the blue circle has been switched. You are now back in the first commit state. Now let's check it out. The title bar is back to the first commit. In other words, it is back to the state of the first commit. This is the Git. Git is more powerful, but if you just want to set up a Linux CNC, it is enough to know this feature alone. If you need it, learn more. There is a lot of information on the internet.
Great freak. Fewer people will give up on setting up Linux CNC if they have these things ready at the beginning, because VS Code syntax highlighting and comparison features will help to find mistakes. And if it's full of errors and we can't even get back to the original, Git can easily take us back to a past commit state, and we can start over again from there.
Linux CNC is very powerful and can do a lot of things, but it also comes with a lot of problems. It is free software, so there is no full support. Users need to study hard and be grateful to the developers. I publish information for commercial purposes, including YouTube, but Linux CNC is free to the public. I think we should thank the developers. This video was about VS Code for using Linux CNC, but in fact, this video itself is part of a DIY 5-axis CNC machine project. If you are interested in Linux CNC, you may also be interested in this project, so please watch the other videos too. If you are interested in this project, I suggest you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any videos. If you empathize with my project, why don't you become a member and support this channel? There are a few benefits, but as long as you are a member, your name will appear at the end of the videos as a patron. In other words, you can be a part of this project. So, please look forward to the next video.